All right, everyone, welcome back in. It's another episode of Bleav in Vikings. I'm your host, Mike Wobschall. Happy to be with you as always. We have a crossover show today. It's a Bleav in Vikings, Bleav in Packers super show. Really excited for our special guest, Ahman Green. Going to bring him in a minute to preview this Vikings and Packers game. But first, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. All right, let's preview this Vikings-Packers game, and to do so, I'm going to bring in a guest. It is Ahman Green, who's a co-host of Bleav in Packers, and more importantly, is a former member of the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
Really a treat for me to have you on the show here today, Ahman, because growing up in Minnesota and then working for the Vikings, you know, you were a pain in the butt.
Life right
yeah,
there. Yeah.
But it is a dream, but you were trying to dash the dream, man.
Yes.
You were a pain in our butt for a bunch of years.
Hey, I was that running back that Viking fans and Chicago Bear fans and Lion fans love to hate. Like, they love me to a point. They're like, damn, that's a good running back. But damn, he freaking ran all over our defenses. So, yes, always business, never personal. Just know that, Mike.
All right. Okay. I believe you, actually. I definitely believe you. And Vikings fans are familiar with you, Ahman. 900. You had 950 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns against the Vikings in 13 games. You were 8-5 in those games. So you got the best of the Vikings.
You
definitely got the best.
Nice. Yeah. I did not know that. I was never a stats guy. I still don't look at it. Now I'm slowly looking at my career, and that's one stat I did not know.
Yeah, you got the best of the Vikings, you know, and but the border battle, man, there's been 128 of these. 128 Vikings Packers games. Now, I believe there's been more Bears Packers, but you know, the Bears have been around for longer than the Vikings. The Vikings have been 100%. Around since 1961. So, and it's a really even matchup, an even series, always fun. You've been a part of many of these. Now, you're a Nebraska Cornhusker. The rivalry thing in college football is definitely just a little bit stronger, but in the NFL, you've got rivals too, right?
Yes.
And for the Vikings, this is number 1. For Green Bay, it's like 1B probably. The Bears are 1A, right? But it feels different, doesn't it, when you play a rival in the NFL like the Vikings?
Oh, yeah, it feels different. I remember my first year there in 2000, and those 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so not so much Detroit, but the 2 weeks where we had, it was Vikings week and it was Bears week. And Coach Sherman, he just seemed just a little bit more tense in both those weeks. And he was already an intense guy. He's the head coach in the NFL. And then a few years later, he became the GM. But that week, he was just on everybody about every little detail of the game plan, offense, defense, red zone, 2-minute, short yardage. I'm going to do this, or Brett, make sure you know this. We're like, does he realize he's just coaching? We the ones that got to go out there on the football field and deal with these guys. Because the one thing I do remember is Dorsey telling me, he said, hey, man, whatever it is, the Vikings have the heaviest linebackers.
Oh, really?
Those guys were the smallest, I think, was Wong.
Kylie Wong.
Yep. Kylie Wong was 245, maybe 250. But then some guys were like 255, 265. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a headache, but I got to deal with it. We got to handle it. We got to handle it.
So would you have played with William Henderson?
Yes. Will was my fullback with Dorsey. And then I say behind me then that year in 2000, it was me, Dorsey. I think Basil Mitchell still was on the roster. And then after 2000, Dorsey went to Philly first or New York first, and then Will stayed, but then we drafted eventually Najee Davenport and Tony Fisher in 2002.
Sure.
But that was my backfield for most of my years.
So Fisher was a Notre Dame kid, right? Was Davenport Nebraska? No,
he was the U. He was Miami.
He was. Yeah, that's right. He was a
Yes,
Cane. That's
yeah,
right.
he was a Cane.
Those are some good names, man. And you guys had some good battles. You got, as mentioned,
Yes.
your numbers against the Vikings were good, but you started 2-0 against the Vikings. You had a touchdown in your first game in 2000. Then you ran for 161 in game 2 against the Vikings in 2000.
Yeah.
So Coach Sherman loved you.
Yeah. I got comfortable then. By 01, I got through my first year, and I just said this on my show earlier today, where like Dorsey and Will, but a lot of guys on the team, but Dorsey in particular, he really took me in under his wing, and then having him, basically as a big brother, like talking to me about the game, like telling me the information about the linebackers. Like he didn't have to tell that, but he did. And that just helped me get my mind ready. Like, okay, this is going to be a physical game. And for every game, he helped me out with little anecdotes he would add. Oh, yeah, I remember this guy, this safety does this, against the for the Buccaneers. That's John Lynch, by the way. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think I want to keep my eyes on him. So he was very, very helpful throughout that year. And so when, unfortunately, he, free agency business stuff comes in and he moved on to the New York Giants, then now I'm like, okay, now I got to steady up. I got to make sure I know the game plan detail by detail, kind of like Dorsey. So I prepare physically and mentally and game plan wise. And so that was, like I said, big, huge help. But then, this respect for any player for on that roster. I remember having some, having to deal with the linebackers. I don't remember I know Keeley for sure, but then Chris Hovan, I remember having to deal with him a little bit. And John Randall too. John Randall was still there in 2000. So that was interesting. That was fun to play with because I was a little bit of a fan. Like I'm in my 6th year, and I'm still getting a little bit of my fanboy out. I was a football fan growing up, a baseball fan, basketball. So when I would play against some guys, I'd be like inside, my little 10-year-old mom would be like, John Randall, what's up, man? How you doing? Like, that's dope. Well, I got to run the ball now, so I can't fanboy right now.
It's so true, though, and you're right about that. And you know what? Just from my perspective, not that anyone really cares, but like you grow up in Minnesota and then get a job with the Vikings, it's the same way, man.
Yes,
it's like
that is dream job right there.
Like I was literally a high schooler on my couch. I play Friday nights, and then I'm watching college football Saturday, NFL Sunday, and 5 years later, after college, I'm in an intern, a little scrappy intern, writing articles for the website, and it's like there's EJ Henderson,
nice.
There's Jared Allen, there's it's crazy, man. And
I played against those guys too, both of those guys. EJ was one of those heavy linebackers. Oh man,
he could
was
hit
physical.
now.
He could hit. He was physical. Picking up the blitz was something, a hope and a prayer. I'll just hold on. I say I know I'm not gonna stop him, but I'm gonna just hold on and protect Brett as best I can. That's what I'm gonna do.
Just getting away, right? I'm just trying to get in the way.
I'm gonna get in his way. I'm gonna be a bump on the road, but I'm gonna get in his way. I'm gonna slow him down just enough.
Yeah. You mentioned Brett, and I, 09 when he came over and played for us, we had just gone through. Now we won the division in 08. So, we weren't terrible. Obviously we won the division, but we were going through a period at that time at quarterback where it was, Brad Johnson, and then it was like Tavares Jackson and Gus Frerotte, and just kind of all these weird, different, trying to patchwork it together.
Right.
And then Brett comes. And so the one thing, again, this would have been, my 4th or 5th year into it. When Brett came, and so you this, you're used to this, but I just want to tell you from someone, like, it's night and day. The practices, the ball was never on the ground.
Yeah.
There's not incomplete passes. There's not fumbled snaps. There's not, we ran the wrong play. Do it again. It's none of that. It was crazy. It was like another level of professionalism. That's really what stood out to me. And it's hard to explain that to people who just watch the games on Sundays.
Correct.
But like the practices, you can just tell by how the practices go if the team's going to be pretty good that year or not. Do you kind of saw it that way too?
Yep. It was smooth practices, transitioning from drills to when you're in a drill, the execution from every player, offense, defense, or special teams. That's when okay, this is a team that has some goals set, and they probably accomplish most of those goals coming out for the season.
Yep. It's just crazy. And, Brett didn't necessarily love to practice, but
No,
but
that's a fact. That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
That's such a true fact.
But like the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday during the week, I mean, it was just so crisp on offense. It was very impressive, and really didn't see it again ever in my career. It was just very notable to me. Anyway, a little story from the past, but
of course, got to.
How about some memories? You talked about the heavy linebackers. You remember that about the Vikings, maybe seeing Johnny Randall. Those are good memories.
Yeah.
How about any games that stood out for you against the Vikings, or playing in the Metrodome or anything like that?
Every game stood out because I call the divisional games, the NFC North games, they were double down. Like it was a double. It was the daily double. That's what I called it. I called it the daily double because it was a rivalry game, and then it basically counted double to get in the playoffs. Because if you win a division, you can still have a poor season and still get in the playoffs because you won the division. And our division, definitely in 2000, was still, as Chris Berman would say, that black and blue division. Like I didn't understand it as a fan watching him talk about all the black and blue division of the NFC North when I was in college and high school watching ESPN NFL on Sunday night, and he'll do his commentation. I didn't understand it till I got there. Then I'm like, oh yeah, we are fighting. We are beat up. That old Metrodome. That's when they had all the old turf in there, just like the Pontiac. Wow. The Pontiac Dome was still in Detroit. I played in the Pontiac Dome one time in 2000, my one and only time. I think 2000 and 2002 or one. But the Metrodome 2 was like, oh my God, this turf sucks. I dread it. Like my body would start reacting on Wednesday because I think I played in that dome, I think most of my career.
Yeah.
And so
you would have. Yep.
By 2002, my body started aching on Wednesday, knowing that we're going to play in the Metrodome week of Vikings game. It just, my body was like, oh, I knew I was thinking like the 30-yard line, the turf, like the turf is only about, if people don't realize, turf is about that thin.
Yeah.
And then it's concrete underneath it.
That's
tough. It's tough. So your body will ache an extra day or two. Depends on how many times I got the ball. If it was a 20+ carry game, I was going to be sore the following week until Thursday, maybe Friday morning.
Yeah.
If I had 20 less carries and touches, even receptions, then by Wednesday, maybe Thursday afternoon, that's how well and close to the wire I knew that, man, if this is a hard game, I might not be right till Friday, recovery wise. It's like to get ready for the next game is going to be a push. So that's just between physicality and rivalry. I hated the horn. Hey, Brett hated the horn. I don't know if he liked it once he got there, but I know he hated the damn horn. He was like, God dang horn. It's stupid. He'd be like, God dang horn, stupid horn, horn. But that was y'all home field advantage, right? You gotta do those things. And it was fun to be a part of it. I say game wise, my first game being in there was probably that's one of my favorites because it's just, like I said, I was a fan. I'm in here with other famous NFL players played, and knowing that a counterpart of my draft, 98 draft, Randy Moss, he's on the other sidelines, and even though we're going at it, I didn't really face him, but just knowing that I was a part of a special class there, I think I might have played against Chris Dolman. I'm not sure, but he might have been there in 2000. But just being a part of that whole fight, between Vikings, Lions, and Bears in the NFC North. So going to that stadium in the winter times, finding out, man, it's colder in Minneapolis than it is Green Bay. Like, hold up. Thank God this is the indoor stadium.
Yeah.
This is like when we had some 12 o'clock games and I'm walking in and we get dropped off outside the stadium. And I'm like, it's cold out here. It's freezing.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't realize. I was like, I think it was Dorsey or somebody said, it's colder actually here in Minnesota than it is in Wisconsin most of the time. I'm like, dang.
It is.
I'm like, these guys may not have no life. I thought I didn't have a life in Green Bay, but they have. If it's this cold, I'm not going outside.
Well, I know what we say though, man. It keeps the riffraff away now.
Is that what it does? Oh
no, I didn't say. It's we're hardy here, but Green Bay's the same. That's good, hardy, wholesome people there.
Exactly.
You got 4 seasons, and you live through the tough times. You appreciate the spring and summer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And appreciate they're outside all from the time it's 50 degrees or above. They're outside.
Yep. And now Green Bay can have some cold games. I mean, if you're playing in Green Bay in December, it's cold. But you get a nice September, October Sunday afternoon game when the sun is shining. I mean, that's about as close to heaven on earth as you're going to get, I think.
That's it.
That it's just there's, I talked about this with Bryant McKinney. I was telling you earlier before we started recording that he's my co-host on Mondays, and he was on some Vikings teams that you played against.
Yep.
All of them, actually. And we talked about Lambeau, and the fans are good and loud there, and there's an advantage, but that's not really what we talked about. What we talked about was just the sort of the magical mystique of it, sort of being like an adult football player sort of playground where you're just kind of in awe of it, because who has come before you to step on that field. And he said, I had a moment in one of my games where there was a long time out, and I just looked around, and I'm like, dang, I'm here.
Right.
And I don't think that got lost on you, Ahman, because you seem to be very grounded and a historically aware person. But you play there 10 times a year, right? Eight regular season games and 2 preseason. You can maybe tend to that might get lost on you, but I'm sure you recognize that over the years too. Like what a special place Lambeau is.
Yeah, it was very special. And one thing I did learn, I'll say, as the more time I played out there, and what I did personally, and not even like I was sometimes, as an athlete, and for me in particular, as a kid, once I became an athlete, my mom and dad or brothers and sisters, or even my coaches, they'd be like, Ahman just does things and don't even realize he's doing it. Yeah. And so I did something, and it wasn't even an on-field thing. It was more of a mental thing. So like you said, I was sports aware. I knew history. I watched football, baseball, basketball growing up. Like I knew people's names like Bill Russell and Ken Griffey Jr., or Hershiser, Wayne Gretzky. Like you say those names to me, I'll be like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And so I knew those names coming into Lambeau Field. I knew Brett, and then Dorsey, and then Leroy, but then Bart Starr, Lambeau himself, why the field, the namesake. So I didn't let that get to me. Like, oh my God, like I got to come here and I got to be that dude day one. Because if I done that, I would have set my expectations way too high and said, you know what? I learned this in college, being at Nebraska, being from the state of Nebraska. I played for the team and we won titles, but it was I never got to the point where I did one time when I first got there in training camp. Right at the end of training camp, I was a true freshman. I was still 17. I was probably the youngest. I was 17 years old. And they wanted me to give the jersey number 30 to me, the one I wore.
Yeah.
And before me, the only person to wear number 30 was Mike Rozier. And this was the only time where I was like anxious and nervous, like, oh my God, they're asking me to put it's like asking whoever the next point guard is after Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And in that number, for some reason, they said, we're going to give you 23. It's like, huh? Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And so that was the only really time I was like, I'm about to lose my mind right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I went to my dorm rooms and I called one of my oldest brother, Jerry. And I said, bro, he's like, how camp going? It's going good. I'm like, yeah, it's going good. I'm getting it. It's coming to me as usual. And he's like, but I'm like, hey, I got something to talk to you about. I'm like, what's up? He's like, what's up? I'm like, Coach Solich asked me to put on number 30 for the season. Like, that'll be my number for the time I'm here. He's like, so what's the problem? Yeah. And I'm like, then when he said it like that, I'm like, right. Oh, right. And then it's a little problem. And I told him when I was feeling anxious, nervous, because what he did, he was a Heisman Trophy winner. He was the last guy running back to do that. And obviously being on the national title team, he's like, so what? I said, he's like, you fill your own shoes. Don't worry about what he did.
That's good
advice.
advice.
It's kind of boom. It like settled me, it grounded me. And so I remember that conversation. Once I got traded, when I found out I got traded, 2 things ran across my mind. One, I'm like, God dang it, I got to go back to the Midwest. I thought I was good in Seattle on the West Coast. I was like, And then the other one was that conversation, because I knew football. I knew sports. Every time you watch Monday Night Football, the commentator would say, oh, Green Bay is the Yankees version of baseball or football.
Yeah.
You heard that in every conversation. So I didn't let that get to me. I just took them. This is another team that I got to go play with and find new teammates, new friendships, a new coaching staff. Here we go. And so with that mentality, that's where I came on that field. And I didn't let the field be bigger than me. You know, I didn't let all the tradition just be in my head every day. Like, oh man, I got to catch this ball, because if I don't catch this, you know, I didn't want to do that to myself. So I didn't put myself through that. So that's why I was able to play at the high level that I was able to play all my years in Green Bay, along with my teammates support and coaches as well.
So yeah, what's cool about that, Ahman, is, you know, the brotherhood that you guys have as players, and then as alumni of, you know, whether it's Nebraska or Green Bay, you know, you would have welcome open arms to a player who's coming into the fraternity, right? So if Paul Hornung and Bart Starr and Curly Lambeau and Vince Lombardi and Ray Nitschke could all be there alive, welcoming you in, they wouldn't be sitting there being like, all right, let's see what you got, Ahman. You know, they wouldn't be doing that. Like, you got to perform to get in here. No, they'd be like, come on in, man. Make yourself comfortable. This is what we're about. We know you're going to do great. We're proud of you. Like, so it's good to have that mindset then that you ended up having after that combo with your brother. That's a really cool story. And I think you should share that with young athletes whenever you're in front of them talking to them.
Oh yeah. I've started doing that over the last few years. I'm like, man, I'm just kind of hitting me. Like I said, I wasn't a numbers guy and I wasn't about me guy. I was a team guy. Yeah. And so now, since I'm done and I like doing stuff, I'm podcasting. I have Bleav in Packers. I do my Gamers Lounge, my video game podcast. So on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Central Standard, and I do the Green and Go G Lounge with Gilbert and Dorsey. And so now I'm talking more, but I'm like, man, I got some pretty cool stories that I have under my belt. When I start telling them, I'm like, I got to remember that, you know, and get it memorized to every little detail, so I could share that with somebody like yourself, or like you said, with young athletes, because then young athletes will see and learn how I saw and learned when I had somebody talk to me, even if it wasn't a professional athlete or a celebrity, if it was just a school teacher telling me a story about how they studied up to get ready for a test they had, and then they passed it. Then I was like, man, I want to be like that. I want to be able to tell my story, because then I could teach that young individual how to get through that moment, whatever it was, and help them feel like they're supported and they're not alone, basically.
Amen. That's an awesome way to put it, man. That's good stuff. So you're busy during the week. You got lots of stuff cooking. How can people catch up with you and find you? We'll talk Vikings Packers. We'll preview this game after this question, but how can people find your stuff?
So right now I'm on I'm on StreamYard as well, but I'll say in StreamYard I'm on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn occasionally, and now X, I gotta now pay the premium. But I stream on those platforms on Green and Go G Lounge. That's 10:30 a.m. on Tuesdays, live show with me and Dorsey and Gilbert Brown, who's a treat, by the way.
I Bleav that
he's crotchety in his own way, so he is good entertainment. So that's Tuesday. And then Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge. So my gaming fascination since I was age 5 has taken over, and now it is a Gamers Lounge that I've been doing since 2019. I'm on 225 episodes, so I've been doing that for a while now. Now Bleav in Packers that I do with Alex Fernando. We record on Tuesdays or Mondays, and then record on Thursdays. And then we post out the clips after that. So that's where you can find me. And then my main Twitch channel is Ahman Green TV. So if you want to follow and watch, come on in. I play Halo. I'm doing Star Wars Outlaws right now on the weekends for my RPG games.
Very cool.
But during the week, it's Madden, it's Halo, it's competition during the week, Tekken 8. So I'm all into it.
Do you play Halo 1?
Oh yeah, I play. Oh yes, that's the one that got me going.
Oh my god,
what a great game. Halo series. Yes, beautiful game. Great FPS shooter.
So I was in college a little after you. My college was 02 to like end of 05, and we would play Halo like in the dorm rooms. You know, like with we would System Link, and you get 4v4s or 8v8s.
Kids don't know that System Link. That was
man.
The LAN events or our home LAN party.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's like It's like we're lagging here. This ain't fair. We're lagging. We got to start this over.
Oh, the lag get you.
We're hosting. No,
Yep.
we're hosting.
Yeah, lagging will get you all bent out of shape.
Oh man,
my goodness.
Yeah, anytime you get sniped like that, it's like it's because I had lag. It's not because you're better than me. I was lagging over here.
All right.
Man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. All right, Vikings Packers, man. What do you think?
Yes.
What a good matchup. Obviously the two running backs are really good in here, and that's a position near and dear to your heart.
Yes.
But in more ways than just that, this is really a great game on the slate for Week 4 in the NFL. I'm excited to watch it. What are your thoughts on the game?
Oh man, right now with the way both teams are playing, everybody question. I'll start with the Vikings since we're here. Question Sam Darnold, right? Didn't know what type of gameplay we would get out. You guys would get out of him, and I say as fans, you're watching the game. But people forget, man, he was a first round pick out of USC.
Yep.
Just let that sink on your brain for a second. So as a defensive coordinator, I'm thinking, man, he played high caliber Power 5 football at a high level, and he was a first round pick. So this guy knows some things. He knows how to read coverages. He has a good release, a fast, quick release, and then he's accurate. And he can use his legs a little bit. He's not a burner like Lamar or anything like that, but he can do what he has enough just to get him a first down if he needs it with his legs. And so that's the part that I like. And then he has the journeyman badge. So he got first round to the Jets, then bounced around the league. Carolina, I think New York Giants. I think he's been to New York twice, Giants and Jets. I'm not sure, but he's been around. And for my experience being around veterans that have been around the league, it's that old adage, and they say it all the time, that savvy veteran. He is that. So he understands what I learned early in my career when I got traded. I learned from 2098, I got drafted. I spoke Nebraska football offense. I got it. I get drafted to Seattle. Now I got to speak Seattle offense language. So our offense and defenses are like languages. So I had to unlearn Nebraska's very simple, rudimentary offense of run, very play action here, a screen there. But then now Seattle, where it's pass 80% of the time, is these checks, these audibles that I had to learn. And then boom, traded to Green Bay in 2000. Now I got to learn the Green Bay language. So that's what Sam has. He's learned all these different languages, been around different coaches and wide receivers and O-lines, where he has a confidence about him, like he's going to be good. He's going to be fine. And so knowing that about him, and then obviously the run game, bringing a former Packer, Aaron Jones, getting him signed up. The deal obviously didn't work out to Aaron Jones' liking in Green Bay, whatever that was. But I saw him just put a post out on his social media, like thanking the fans because he's coming to play in Lambeau for the first time, being in another uniform. I was almost at that point where I was a Texan, but I was on IR when they played. Oh. I did come home. I did come back to Green Bay when the Texans did, but I just went to my house and watched the game from home. I watched the game from home because I was like, for one, I shouldn't have been on IR. I was mad about that. So that was why I didn't go to the stadium or fly with the team. But for their defense, Brian Flores and what he's done as a coach, as a defensive coordinator, he's from the school of Belichick, right? Yep. And a defense coordinator like that, man, like I want to go to just be an intern for a camp with him, or just if I could track down Bill Belichick now, say, hey, let me just ear hustle you for about once a week to give me how you do everything, how you detail the game plan, how you scout players, how do you plan out taking a weapon away from an offense, how do you, just that process, because whatever you have, it's something a little bit different because what you do works. Your play calling, your execution, your coaching of the game plan, because to get these players, again, they have to transition from college, whatever they know, to now learning what Brian Flores is coaching. They got it down and it's working because that defense has been working for Minnesota. And then the same thing, flip on our end. We have a new defensive coordinator coming in from the college level. And so I say it's more of the team taking the reins, like, hey, yeah, we got this. We understand that. We're gonna then execute it. And so it's gonna be a good matchup. That's what I feel from this. And then from Malik, from our side of point of view, he's basically a month and a half, I think, in Green Bay, in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever been up this far north, and is playing fantastic. And I tip my hat to Matt LaFleur and the offensive coordinator to basically tailor in an offense where he's progressively learning as he's playing to get better, because he has attributes about himself. He could run, and he has a really good arm, but he didn't know the offense clearly. But he's learning it slowly. What they did, hey, we run them. You know what? Don't worry about it. We got Josh Jacobs. We picked up a free agency. First game, he runs for 150 and some change and some screenplays here and there. The younger running backs, Emmanuel Wilson and Lloyd, they step in. They get, and that helps Malik. That builds confidence and all that. So now where he's at, they go last week to Tennessee. They had no business there, but now you got a divisional matchup where just an hour flight away that they're flying into. And now we're going to see what this division is all about. I Bleav that the NFC North is one of the tougher divisions now. Yeah. Even with the Bears retooling and building a new foundation with Caleb, they still have a solid defense. And they have an offense that's going to come around. The offense is not going to kick in until Caleb understands what's going on. Then when it does kick in, so next year is going to be interesting for the NFC North. But for this year, in this game in particular, this is going to be the first slug match, slug fest between NFC North pillar teams that are, they got about, they're having a good season. The Packers are having a good season. They have good players, young, good players. And now we're going to see, okay, where does this team match up from not just the players, but just team-wise standpoint coming into Lambeau, and then the Packers protecting Lambeau from the Vikings coming into play.
Yep, that's a good way to look at it, Ahman, is where are you in as a team? Where are you in the current core arc? Where are you, right? Yes. You can be an older team kind of at the end of your window. You can be a younger team. You can be right in the middle of it. And you look at the NFC North, I mean, I don't think any of the four teams you would say are at the end of their arc. The Lions maybe are the closest to being there, but Goff is not getting old. I mean, Goff is in his prime. So, the Lions are maybe a little more advanced than anyone, but the Packers are very early on. The Vikings, even with Darnold, are still early on, but with J.J. McCarthy are certainly early on. And the Bears are just beginning with Caleb Williams. So you're right. It's right now currently a good division, and it's going to get better. And so as I was listening to you sort of talk about Malik Willis and Matt LaFleur, I couldn't help but sort of just be really impressed with Matt LaFleur because he's constructed this thing with Jordan Love as his, the quarterback.
Yep, as his guy.
And then at the end of the first game, it's like, hey, by the way, the guy that this is centered around, he's out for the next 2 games at least. So now it's like, okay, and so these offensive-minded coaches, they're sharp. And
they have to be. Yes.
Yep. And they are able to pivot so quickly. So I'm excited to see what Mike McDaniel does in Miami now without Tua for a little bit.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what Sean McVay does without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Right. And I've been impressed with what I've seen Matt LaFleur do with Malik Willis. And I'm not taking anything away from Malik, but this is football, man, right? You got a plan that you worked on all training camp, and then you get hit in the mouth, someone gets hurt, and you got to change. You're used to that,
Yes, 100%. And this is where we find out how good of a coach you are.
Yeah.
And so far, Matt has shown up. He's shown up for his player, because all coaches, all we are, beyond our pay and beyond our experience, is we're there to make sure our best players show up. So we put them on a pedestal, say, hey, these are your favorite plays. Here you go. From a running back, quarterback, wide receiver, I say for offensive standpoint, and even defense, because even defensive standpoint, the linebackers love certain blitzes, or DBs love certain coverages. I knew DBs that, man, I remember Al Harris. He loved to run a cover one press bump. He was physical. He was a physical DB. He said, I love to beat up the wide receiver and just give him where I'm handsy the whole time.
Definitely.
And so you do that. And that's what he's done with Malik Willis, is found out the plays he likes and then said, all right, he might like some throws. He might like some of the big stuff, but we got to wait though, because you don't understand the verbiage or the adjustments you have to do in that offense or that formation or in that situation. So let's wait. Let's give you this first. That was the first game of the season in Brazil. Second game. Who was that guy?
It was Philly first, then Indy?
Indy.
Yeah.
So it's the Indy game. So sorry, excuse me. I jumped back and forth. So the Indy game, it's like, here you go. This is just start here. But if you progress where you're comfortable and you're not, you kind of learn from that experience, then we'll bump you up. And that's why he had a little bit more extra yards. He had 202 and a touchdown against the Titans. And the Titans team, regardless, they're kind of growing, but they're still a good team. They have a solid defense. But as we know, a solid defense is not only going to be as much as strong as the offense. Having points, being on the field, so you're not on the field all the time. So that's kind of their weakness. But for Matt and OC and the offensive side of the ball, they've done that job, because even not just, but they've had, I'll say, even with what they're doing with Willis, they had the opportunity to do this with all the young receivers they had last year. They had a whole bunch of guys that were first-year players. Octavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, and Christian Watson. They're the elder statesmen, but they're only 3-4 years in. You know, and
they're
then
young
you
pups.
have Jaden Reed and Wicks and a few other guys that were coming off the bench, hungry and excited, and so with that education in terms of Matt LaFleur and the OC, was like, wait a minute, we kind of did this already, because we had a whole bunch of wide receivers that we had to get up to level to understand how to run routes and what to do again with Jordan Love in the pocket. But now we just do this with another guy, another quarterback. So we've been down this train before, or down this street before. So understanding that Bleav made his job a lot easier. And so, like I said, it's been a nice coaching experience for him, I'm pretty sure. He's probably, obviously, going at home at the end of the day is probably like, oh my God, I can't believe we got to go through this. But this is sports. This has happened. Guys get hurt. You got to make sure you got a good backup, no matter the position.
Yep. So I think, offensive coaches and defensive coaches in the same way, but we're talking offense here. So, if you've got Peyton Manning didn't miss many games, right? Tom Brady didn't miss many games. So those offensive coaches, they, their challenge was, we can't, we're going to keep doing the same things that always work, but we can't be predictable. So we got to add wrinkles here, right? To throw the other team off. That's a challenge. But when you have adversity and injury, the challenge is, we got one way of doing it, but we can't do it that way because Jordan Love's hurt. And now we got Malik Willis. So that's a different challenge in its own right. And it's always fun to see how the coaches can respond to those challenges. And obviously, Matt LaFleur is doing a great job. One more thing on the Green Bay side before I ask you a couple questions about the Vikings, Ahman. Obviously, there's going to be a question about who starts at quarterback between Jordan Love and Malik Willis. And so the reason for that is Love has a sprained MCL.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that injury? And if so, what's it like coming back from that?
100%. I've had that injury several times.
Okay.
And it is tricky. I say it's only tricky because we're from a med. Okay, I'm about to go MD on you right here.
Okay, let's do it.
So I was just like I was with my football. I learned all the layers. So even though football, it's football, but so when I started obviously being a running back, I think after the first game of the regular season, I was always never 100%.
Right.
So I was always hurt. Finger, ankle, shoulder, back. So MCL, for whatever reason, that was my first injury, one of my first ones that kept me out for a couple games. Actually, I missed preseason in 2000 because of a sprained MCL. Thanks to Al Wilson, linebacker at Tennessee. We played Denver when he was a first round draft pick to the Denver Broncos. Yeah. So shout out to Al, on that. So I didn't play the rest of preseason. But what I found out was that, it is a major ligament of the knee, but if it's a grade 1 sprain, this is where I go. It's grade 1 sprain, you could play on it, but it's going to be sore as hell. So you got to at least give it a week or two, because the soreness just telling you it's inflamed And when the inflammation is swelling, all the other nerves are getting hit by that inflammation.
Okay.
So let it go down, give it a week or 2 weeks. That's the doctor recommended for that. So seeing what I saw when Jordan got tackled, it looked like grade 1, maybe grade 2. Okay. I said, I didn't see no significant pop. Like if I saw a big pop, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a MCL gone, ACL maybe 2. But I just saw a slight little bend, a little give. And so I got in my head, I said, that's grade 1, grade 2. So that's going to be maybe 2 to 3 weeks. So now him coming back, the only thing he's going to have a little through the rehab is that's inflammation. So the MCL is like your hamstring. The MCL is here. The hamstring is here. So with that MCL ligament, that inflammation firing up, what you think that is going to happen to the hammy? It's going to be sore. It's going to be sore at the bottom. So right where the knee and the your hamstring connects in the back of your knee. So right where that joint is, that's where that soreness is going to be also. So you got hammy soreness, you got ligament soreness. So it's not a fun day, especially for a quarterback where being a quarterback, your foundation starts at your feet and goes up. So that means the knee halfway up is going to be an issue. So give that 2 to 3 weeks to get the soreness out of it. And he's going to come back with a brace, 100%. That's just for safety reasons, just for structural reasons. I had a brace. Remember that Pat McKenzie said, hey, Ahman, when you're back, you got to wear this brace. And I saw this brace. I was like, man, I look like Frankenstein, man. I don't want to wear this big old brace. I'm fast. I'm going to run it. He's like, you got to wear it. I'm like, oh, all right. I got to do it. So I did. So, yeah, we might. And today they got new tech. So he'll have a brace on. It might be one of them sleek, looking good ones that you don't even see it. But he will be braced up when he comes back. If it is this game. Or maybe the next. I could see probably 50-50 this game, but definitely the next game after this game.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, yeah. And whenever he does come back, I hope he feels good and stays healthy. I love watching him play. And it was a big bummer to see that injury happen. I'm glad it wasn't, a more severe one that caused him to miss the whole season and have to do a long rehab. So he did dodge a bullet from that standpoint, but still a bummer to see anyone get hurt. And I love watching Jordan Love play. So hopefully he gets back soon. 2 Vikings I was really curious to hear you sort of talk about, and then we can wrap it up and get out of here for the day. Cool. But obviously Aaron Jones, the running back, who we're all loving watching here, and then Justin Jefferson. And the reason I'm curious for you is, you played the position Aaron plays, but as it relates to Justin, we all see he's really fast. He gets separation. That's great. He can catch the ball, but like from a football player's, an athlete standpoint, I'd be curious to see what you appreciate about Justin's game. So just your thoughts on Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson. Throw him some flowers for us.
Oh man, yeah. I say with Aaron, knowing that, so I'll go with Aaron first because I've known him. I've known him first. And him being a Packer, just the fact that I start off the field, just his humbleness. It's kind of like me. I was very humble. I was very appreciative of everyone around me. When I say everyone in the locker room. So my offensive line, my teammates, and so he's basically followed in that line. And then once you get on the game field, once you get him on the field, then he's very dynamic, and that's what I love about my thing about running backs is the same thing that I looked at myself, and then obviously my coaches expected me to do things on the football field, and that was run the ball, obviously, but then pick up the blitz, catch the ball, protect the ball. And so that's what every time when I'm watching a football game, I don't care if it's Little League, I don't care if it's the Super Bowl. I'm watching the running back and I'm looking for those 4 characteristics. Can they run the ball? Can they catch the ball at the backfield? Can they pick up the blitz? And can they protect the ball in any situation when they have it in their hands? Yeah. So I make sure they do that. And then, if they got to line up in the slot, which I see people have put Aaron in he did it at Green Bay. And I'm pretty sure he's going to do it here in Minnesota. So when you have a guy, and it's something I learned my rookie year in Seattle, being a special teamer most of the time, my first couple of years there, I remember coaches would say, the more you can do, the more valuable you are to your team. Yeah. And so somebody like Aaron is very valuable because, like I said, all the route running he could do, even though him being a small guy, he still is effective. Getting a little older in his age and just his size alone, it'd be sometimes some situations a little tough. But you know what? For him, he doesn't look at it that way. Like we see this because we observing, hey, he's maybe 200 pounds and the linebackers are 225. Like we see that, we commentate on that. But for him, he doesn't see that.
Yeah.
So he has no fear. That doesn't slow him down in the way he plays. He's going to run like he's 225 himself or 250. And he's going to try to catch every pass thrown his way, which I've seen him catch passes better than most wide receivers. And so that's one thing about Aaron I always like. And again, like I said, off the field is him being obviously a military brat and raised by his mom and dad. I don't think he was a brat. That's just the phrase.
Yeah,
that's the phrase. But being raised by two parents that were in the military, it shows from day one. And then off to my man, Justin Jefferson. Man, since day one, this kid, when I watch wide receivers, I grew up, I watch wide receivers because I know it just as well as I know the running back position. I know wide receivers. I grew up being a wide receiver myself a few years in Little League, and then watching guys like Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, Steve Largent, people like for example, Steve Largent. If you knew of him, for people that don't know, like I know we do, he was maybe not even 6 feet tall. He definitely wasn't a 4'4" guy.
Yeah.
But when the ball was thrown his way, he figured out how he was going to catch balls.
It was his ball.
It was his ball.
He's like, that's mine. I'm going to get that.
After he was done, he became a politician. He was from Oklahoma, I think he's a politician in Oklahoma right now. But when I see that and know how you're supposed to run routes and how you get open and how you get open for your quarterback, that's what Justin does. He does those things that it just makes the quarterback's job a lot easier. To have him on the field, I'm like, man, like I'm just my hair standing up right now. Just this, I'm feeling like if I was his teammate, I'm just like, when I see number 18 on the split, I'm like, okay, I'm real happy. This is a happy day. Because whatever I do, it's gonna be multiplied because whatever he does. When he has a hell of a game, that means all the run gaps are open because everybody's trying to cover him or any other receivers running around because he's making it a problem. Because even if you cover him, he's going to catch it with one hand. He's going to do something fantastic. Yeah. And then he has the acumen too. Like he runs his routes to where he knows how he gets more space to get open beyond his speed. Because if he didn't have the speed, how are you going to get open? I.e. Steve Largent. You got to run a route right. You got to run it correct and crisp where you're not in a position where you making your quarterback double clutch it before he throws the ball. Like, man, is he open? He didn't come off that break real smooth. No, he's open. Throw it to him. Or he came out that break smooth. Get it to him now, because if not, then it's on you as a QB. So he's just one of those guys that even when the quarterback throws the ball, the quarterback, man, that's a bad throw. Oh, but Justin just caught it. He made me look good. he made me look good. So good wide receivers do that to quarterbacks. They make the quarterbacks look even better because they know what they're doing when they're running their routes.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. You can get the inverse of that, where quarterbacks make receivers maybe look better than they were. I think Favre and Rodgers maybe had some of that to them. No disrespect to those receivers. I think we saw that with Favre in Minnesota with some of the pass catchers in 2009 that sort of weren't as effective once Favre left. But there are cases of, I think about Mike Evans, right, with Johnny Manziel and with some of the quarterbacks in Tampa. I mean, he's made a lot of those guys look good. So, and Jefferson is one of those players. The separation, the route running, it's so crazy to me. Everyone knows how good he is, but so many of his catches, he's wide open.
And I'm like, what are you doing?
How is this happening? It's, he's a great route runner, So.
I remember when I would run the ball, Chicago, I say especially everybody in the division, they'll put 9-10 guys in the box.
Yeah.
And I was like, I remember when I first saw that, one of my linemen mentioned that to me. And they was like, hey, G, they doing that for you. You know that, right? I said, I kind of figured that, but I wasn't sure. He said, no, they doing it for you. So we got to do it. So that right there is just a respecting. I'm like, wait a minute. So what are they doing with Justin? Do they not respect him? Like, how you not put a man that is supposed to be a shadow on him? Go him on there like he's Ethan Hawke from Mission Impossible. Wherever he goes, you go.
You're going. I know.
You're going.
I think part of it's play design and part of it's he's just a great route runner, and I think we'll see tighter coverage in this game. In fact, that kind of gets 100%. Us to the last, minute or two here of our time together, predicting what we think will happen. like most NFL games, I think it's going to be a close game. It's probably going to come down to a field goal. I don't know who's going to win. But in terms of like a game flow, Ahman, I expect points to be at a premium here. I'm not saying 17-10, but the over-under started at 45 and it's down to 43.5. And I think that's about right. I think it's 42, 43, 41. I think it's going to be hard to score a bunch of points, and it's going to come down to the last two possessions. Is that what you see, or do you see it differently?
No, I felt the same. Me and Alex, we talked even for last week's game too. We wasn't sure because they have a healthy Will Levis and their defense is solid, so anything could happen. It was kind of the same thing there. But then we saw with the turnovers, it just blew it. That made it a different game. But for this game here, same thing, because I think Darnold got a little knee bruise, but nothing serious. He still play through. He's going to come back. He's playing 100% this week. So again, defense and Brian Flores. And I don't think people realize this. If you watch the Vikings 49ers game when they beat them, during the come to the field and a good game coach and good game Brock Purdy, what happened? Brock Purdy goes up to Brian. He found Flores and says, your defense is different.
Oh, really?
When the starting quarterback from the opposing team you just beat finds the coach and says to him, your defense is different.
Badge of honor.
That's a badge of honor, Brian Flores. So we're going to see a game where if it's Malik, it's going to be interesting for him to read and understand defenses. If it's Jordan, he'll see it a little bit cleaner than Malik will, because he has a little bit more extra time as the starter, and this is his offense. But we'll see until game time when it's announced Jordan Love's playing, Jordan's not playing. But it's going to be, I say this will be a little tougher game for Malik. He can't be successful, but he's going to have to really be smart with his ball in terms of what his eyes are showing him. Once he breaks the huddle, pre-snap huddle, like check the defense. All right, this is what I see. But then after the ball snap, where does everybody run to? Because you got guys that are going to be cheating the zones or cheating, making it look like cover 3 when it's actually cover 1 man press. They're going to be cheating, but they got to push back and get in their zone. So you got to pre-snap watch that as a quarterback to find out who. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, Brian Flores has it to a point where he's coaching them up to know to do that. And he's a whole nother team of players from Miami, from New England to now. So that's what you got to look out for. And so
it's going to be
again tough game. It's going to be a tough game. Yeah,
I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to watch it, man. There's a lot of good games on the slate this week. Detroit and Seattle play. The Bears and the Rams play. Falcons and Saints, Ravens, Bills, man, there's some good games this week. Vikings, Packers right up there with them. So it'll be fun to watch. And now we're connected. I'm excited to sort of bounce some ideas off of you and learn more from you over the course of the season. I really appreciate your time coming on Bleav in Vikings and doing a Bleav in Vikings, Bleav in Packers super show. It was a lot of fun, man. Thank you.
Hey, no problem, Mike. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
All right. That's going to do it for today's episode of Bleav in Vikings. We thank you all for listening. Make sure you like, follow, download, subscribe to Bleav in Vikings and Bleav in Packers. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms as well as on YouTube. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you for listening, everyone. Enjoy the game on Sunday. We'll talk to you all next week when we break down what we saw on the field, and then we look ahead to the next game for the Vikings, which is in London against Aaron Rodgers, Ahman, and the New York Jets for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, that's right. All right. Okay, let's get out of here, man. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the game, Ahman. We'll talk to everyone later. Remember, keep believing.